The United States is sounding the alarm over China's nuclear arm procurement, describing the build-up as the most rapid expansion and ambitious modernisation in history. The Defence Intelligence Agency estimates that by 2030, Beijing will have more than 1,000 nuclear weapons, many of which will have the power to reach the United States. For further analysis, let's bring in my security expert, Lincoln Parker. Link, great to see you, as always.
G'day.
That is a lot of very powerful weapons with a great distance to travel.
Indeed. So, I mean, how did we get to this stage? And I think the answer is, look, over the last 30 years, Australia has been pursuing a strategy of engagement, which has effectively handcuffed our country to China and their interest, which is, so that we could sell wine and iron ore and coal to fuel their machine, which ironically is the very machine that is funding the likes of Iran and Russia and eventually will become an enemy of ours. So, I think we need to be looking at this massive build-up of Chinese nuclear weapons and say, do we get it yet? Are we going to be prepared? Are we going to communicate with the Australian public?
I can already tell you the answer. It doesn't matter what they do. They could have them ready right now, right to go, hand on the buzzer, and we'd still say, no, we're cool.
Yeah, we're fine.
We're fine. There's no threat. There's no threat.
There is a massive threat, and we're seeing outbreaks of violence and conflicts all around the world. And if our trade is disrupted in any way, shape or form, we are going to have shortages in Australia.
Question without notice. I was scrolling, as I do this morning, looking at different parts of Indonesia's new cabinet under the Prabowo presidency. And I note that Pak Sugiono, the new foreign minister, went in his place to the meeting over in Russia with Putin and Xi. And I thought it was very interesting that President Prabowo didn't go himself, whether that was an intentional thing to maybe not provoke Western allies. Indonesia, as I said at the top of the show, is a friend to all and enemy to none. What do you make of that?
Look, I think Prabowo is showing his mettle. He was tested as soon as he became and was sworn in as president. The Chinese Coast Guard this past week have on 2 occasions sent Chinese vessels into the North Natuna Sea, which is in Indonesia's own waters, their own exclusive economic zone, trying to disrupt Indonesian seismic survey ships. And Prabowo was having none of it. He stood up for Indonesia, just like Australia ought to be doing, and he sent his navy in there to intercept these Chinese vessels and expel them, essentially, and that's exactly what happened. So I think this is Prabowo standing up for Indonesia and showing that he's no lightweight.
See, that's a great sign, because the first country he went to as president-elect months ago was China. But he's obviously someone who's not afraid to stand up and to protect his own turf as well. Yeah. He's incredibly tough. We know that, absolutely.
Right.
What has Kim Carr done now? He's not a fan of AUKUS.
No, well, it seems like we only get the truth out of Labor MPs and former Labor ministers once they've retired. So the likes of Kim Carr and Paul Keating and Dan Andrews, that once they've retired from politics, all come out with their anti-US rhetoric and pro-China Marxist, policies and standpoints. And well, we know that the Labor Party has a very powerful left faction, which Albanese is a member of, and they're very much pro-China. And so that's what we're seeing. And he's anti-AUKUS, this Kim Carr, former minister, and he's coming out and unbinning it.
What do you make of the $7 billion worth of medium and long-range missiles that we've just acquired?
Well, I think it's a good step. However, there's very little detail. So, as usual, the Labor government is very light on detail. But what I can tell you is that these missiles are not offensive. So they're not going to deter any of our enemies. They're purely defensive missiles. And I reckon, depending on how many get, in a serious conflict, they might last a week. And so it's just not enough, and we need to start looking at offensive capabilities that actually deter potential enemies.
Our industry here, our defence industry, is phenomenal, isn't it? Aren't we selling so much to the rest of the world? Why isn't our government looking to purchase more homegrown?
Well, we do have a defence industry. It's actually quite small. We buy most of our stuff from the United States and Europe, and we should be doing more. We should be investing in sovereign-made capabilities. The government of the day will always talk about that, but we never seem to do it.
Yeah, I was listening to the reaction of some figurehead a couple of days ago talking about, well, we're selling this to this and this, but our own country doesn't seem, much fussed by it or interested in it, which is disappointing, because you'd much rather have the money coming here.
I work in the sector and I see it every day, where if you're an Australian defence industry company, you're selling to the United States first, and only then will the Australians buy it.
Then they'll take you seriously.
Right.
Lincoln, we always take you seriously. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.